Hello, everyone, and welcome to another coronavirus update. This is update 33. By now, we all know the drill, how these work. We just want to give you some more information, touch base with Dr. Vannasdall, and get the very latest. Dr. Vannasdall, always great to see you. We appreciate you taking time to help clarify things. As always, great to see you.
My pleasure, Ryan. Thanks for connecting.
So here we are, update 33, approaching the end of January. Schools are still closed as of right now. Cases are still high. Stay-at-home order is still in place, and we're managing our best as we see the cases rise. But we do have a glimmer of hope, some optimism with the vaccine being rolled out. It's being rolled out slower than I think a lot of people have hoped, but it is there. And so we're hearing talk of possible reopening. We heard Governor Newsom the end of December with his Safe School for All plan. And I think that caused maybe a little bit of confusion with folks. So we just want to touch base with you, kind of where we're at here in Arcadia Unified, what's our plan moving forward, and kind of our status as of now.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. Well, first of all, I want to always begin by just letting all of our families know and staff that our heart continues to be with our families that are struggling with loss. You know, we've seen that figure, over 400,000 lives lost now to COVID in the nation. And we know that that's not a number out there. Those numbers are very real for folks in Arcadia, and that we have students and parents and staff that have lost loved ones. And so we grieve with you, and we wish you the strength and the courage during this difficult time. So yeah, I appreciate, Ryan, that you hit that balance of we are still in the middle of COVID-19 and very serious times, case numbers, hospitalization numbers, and of course deaths. At the same time, we are full of hope, and I feel like we've been running this marathon, and we can see the end, and the end is in sight. And I am filled with hope at this time. I want to celebrate with everyone a decision that we made collectively, a frustrating decision, but one that I believe, has served our students well during this time. And that is to minimize the disruptions on teaching and learning, and to instead focus on the consistency and the stability that we control at this time. And that decision was to go into a virtual environment and to remain there until we believe that we could return, with the permission of the health department and all of the restrictions, return in a safe way and sustain that return, so that we're not spending a lot of time investing in plans to come back and then whiplash back into lockdown. And just in case anyone missed it, even if we would have made plans and returned prior to the break, as soon as we came back off the holiday break, I received a letter from both Dr. Foran at the health department and Dr. Deborah Duardo, the county superintendent, advising us to shut down all in-person teaching and learning until at least the end of January. So I know it's frustrating, but I want to thank everyone for their patience during this time, because we have stayed focused on that teaching and learning in a virtual environment, and we're going to remain in that environment until we know that we can return in a safe and sustained way. Right now, we continue to be in that top tier in LA County, so nothing has changed. We hear a lot from at the state level and the county level about possible plans, and you probably have some questions about that further, Ryan. But when you boil it down and you look at all of those plans, it always has the asterisk that says, unless you're in the top tier, or unless you're at this many cases per 100,000. We continue to be in that in LA. So a lot of that hopeful planning that you hear doesn't pertain to us at this time. So,
yeah, I think it's a little confusing, a little frustrating for parents when they hear talk about reopening schools, and in particular, Governor Newsom at the end of December, his Safe School for All plan, which included $2 billion to help with PPE and all that sort of thing. But as you alluded to, we've, since day one, as you know this, Dr. Vannasdall, we've been in one of the worst tiers, if not the worst tier, in not only the state, but the country. So some of those, what gets lost in some of that messaging is some of those tiers where you need to be, and some of those requirements to reopen and we're not really near that. You alluded to the numbers nationally, and even here, just looking at some of the numbers from earlier this week, we've had over 1 million cases in LA County and over 14,000 deaths in LA County, and the impact in Arcadia and people we know is very real. So is there any type of timeline with the vaccine rolling out, or anything that we could hang our hats to as far as a possibility down the road?
Yeah, I'll reiterate that for right now, the restrictions based on our numbers in LA right now are just unrealistic for returning, and even returning in any of those plans that you hear from the state and from the county. And I'll share a couple just of the specifics on that. So in it, in the governor's plan, it was like we can all a safe plan to return to school by February 1st. When you start to look at the bullet points underneath that, what's required, first of all, you have to be out of that top tier. We are not and don't plan to be out of that top tier anytime in the immediate future. Secondly, the $4 billion that is mentioned, it sounds like a big number. California is a big place. And when you start breaking it down, it's about $450 per student for Arcadia. And one of the requirements is testing for people in our tier. If we returned, it would be testing every single person, that's staff and student, weekly for COVID-19. And those tests can range from $50 to $100 a piece. We would have to pay for that, manage the whole process from the district's perspective. And you can imagine, the cost on that $450 gets eaten up really quick when you start looking at that. So that's that's where we are today. When you talk about out in the future, Ryan, the time is, again, we're really hopeful. I am confident in the phone calls that I've been on, listening to what's going on right now, creating the infrastructure for mass distribution. That's happening. And that's what's giving me hope. We had 5 come online, 5 mass distribution centers this past week, which were traditionally the testing centers, like Dodger Stadium, everyone's familiar with, because we see it on the news. 5 were converted over to vaccination sites. And in the next week, additional 5 will be. And I want our community to know that the school district, alongside with the city, the Chamber of Commerce and Arcadia, everyone is doing our part to be part of the solution. And we're stepping forward, trying to find out, what we can do to be one of those distribution sites, if not multiple distribution sites for our community. And so once the number of doses starts to increase of the vaccines and additional vaccination companies are approved, I see the scaling up of these sites just taking off. And so that's what gives me hope. The sooner that we can get our community vaccinated on a mass scale, the sooner we can be back in person.
Yeah, I was reading some numbers that the LA County Health Department put out earlier this week as far as vaccinations, and they said the vaccinations are low right now as far as the doses they're getting. So they're starting to just now open it up to residents 65 and older. But here's some numbers to kind of put that in perspective of where we're at. So there's over 1.4 million residents in LA County that fall in that category of 65 and older. Obviously, first getting the doses are healthcare workers. And in LA County alone, we have between, they estimate, 700 and 800,000 frontline healthcare workers. And since we first got our first dose 5 weeks ago on December 14th, LA County has received just a little over 800,000 doses. So that's barely enough to cover the healthcare workers. But keep in mind, as we know, it's 2 doses of the vaccination. So, I mean, looking at those numbers, the vaccinations, we wish they were here faster, and it's going to take some time to catch up and then get down to our phase with educators and all that sort of thing. What are you hearing about who will have to get the vaccination? Will it be a mandate for teachers, staff, and school districts to receive the COVID-19 vaccination?
I appreciate you asking that question, Ryan. I've received that a lot lately. At this time, there is no plan by the state or the county to require vaccinations by staff or students. And so this will be a local decision. Obviously, organizations and companies can make that decision, but for a school system, we will be managing that on our own, meaning that, we've always been really good at being flexible, both with students and staff to ensure that we can continue to provide services and meet everyone's needs. So we'll be working to accommodate that internally, but to be clear, there will not be a requirement for adults or students to have the vaccine.
So, Dr. Vannasdall, nobody has a crystal ball, knows exactly when we're going to reopen schools. Our students and staff have done an amazing job. I feel like they're back in a rhythm, back in a routine, but we're starting to get some questions as far as next fall, next school year. Do we think we'll be open? What are your thoughts? I know we don't know for sure, but next fall, how promising does that look that we'll be back on campus with students?
Yeah, my level of confidence, Ryan, continues to increase with every meeting that I attend and every webinar that I'm in on at the county and the state level. And what I mean by that is that, again, the infrastructure going into place right now to scale up to exponentially increase the number of doses being able to be given in people's arms is happening right now. And so I have a high level of confidence that I hope that we are back in person in some form by this school year, towards the end of this school year. And even if that means it begins to get students back on campus for certain events, or on a short time basis, but by fall, I have every expectation that we will be opening school fully with everyone back, staff and students as we know it. So, and that makes me smile because that's where we're at our best, and that's where we can provide this wraparound services to students that we've been missing out on. So I'm looking forward to that and excited for that day.
That does bring a smile to everyone's faces hearing that, and the hope and optimism. And speaking of that, the good news is we talked about the vaccinations. We wish it was, a little bit more rapid and in more people's arms sooner, but our district nurses and some of our district's nursing staff have received the vaccination, their first doses already. So that's very exciting, and they're excited to get it. So that's been some good news and welcome news for us as well. So it's slowly but surely, and it's hopefully all sooner than later for sure.
Yeah, and I know our HR department, led by Dr. Harishu, they are ready. They have the templates ready to go for the letters as soon as they get word for the next tier of people that are able to go and get that. Those letters are going out, those verification letters that will allow them to hit one of those super sites to get their vaccine. So.
Sounds good. Anything else before we wrap up, Dr. Vannasdall? We appreciate your time already as we wrap up Coronavirus Update 33.
I just, again, want to say thank you to our community and the parents and staff. When we started this, the big ask was do what you can with what you have. And that's for parents as well as staff, knowing that we have to reimagine what schooling looks like for everyone. And everyone in Arcadia stepped up. Very proud of our community and our school community for everything that they've done for our students that don't get a do-over. And I think that's what's been driving all of us to do everything possible within these limitations to be there for our students. And you have, so thank you.
Schools closed, hearts and minds definitely open right now. It's been impressive. Dr. Vannasdall, thank you so much for spending time with us for Coronavirus Update 33. I know we'll be talking very soon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ryan.